Okay, hi guys, so this is part 2 of the video. So this is again the structure of the video. So now I'm going to talk about the truth behind the man. So yeah, I was very curious about this person after he passed away, about Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. So I went to look back at history and try to find out and make a critical assessment as to whether he was that important and that capable of a man, and I really wanted to find out the truth. Okay, I didn't want any propaganda. I did not want any one-sided picture of the things that the opposition can sometimes paint. Okay, so I went to do my due diligence, and I found out some more things, things that I didn't know before. So I guess it was a really education experience for me. And yeah, when I make these videos, okay, there's no script. I'm just holding on to this. Okay, there's no script, so my comments are quite off the cuff and quite extempore, as opposed to maybe Amos Yee's video where he probably rehearsed many times. So to draw a comparison between me and him is not so fair. And I broke my legs. So I wouldn't, if I did not break my legs, if I were not on leave of absence, I would not have been making the video. Okay, I would be really busy with schoolwork. So I'm making this video because I thought that I wanted to get my views out, and after I felt the pulse of Singaporeans, and yeah, so this is why I'm making the video. So the truth behind this man, okay, his political career spanned more than 50 years, right? So it's a long story. Okay, what happened in the 1960s and what happened in the 1970s, where one could say that political opponents were actually driven out of the country. Well, a lot of them went to places like Hat Yai, Johor Bahru, other parts of Malaysia, Australia. So there were a lot of political opponents who were sort of driven out of the country. Okay, well, some of them were communists. Okay, some of them were affiliated to the communists. Some of them were from Barisan socialists. These people are forced to live in exile, and a lot of them, if they actually come back to Singapore, they would be arrested. Right? People like, I'm sure you have heard some familiar names like Francis Xiao, Chia Tai Po or something. Yeah, I think he was jailed for decades. I'm not really sure what happened to him, so you can go research about it. Okay, and Francis Xiao, that one is quite a controversial case because you can view his videos on YouTube to find out more about him. Subhas's friend said, Subhas is a criminal lawyer in Singapore. His friend says that, of course that's hearsay, but his friend said that he's a dangerous person and he's power hungry. Okay, I'm not really sure what's the truth of that. Okay, but I guess it's a pretty widely held opinion. Basically, he was from a law society, and I guess he wanted more power, so there was a statutory duty of the law society to comment on legislation which is passed by Parliament. So he mobilized the profession, and lawyers started commenting on acts of legislation that were passed by Parliament, and that included something to do with films. Okay. An act which actually dealt with foreign films and publications. Okay, so that was Francis Xiao. He's quite controversial. controversial, and apparently he still owes Subhas $25,000. Okay. I'm not so sure about his case. Tang Liang Hong was a politician, I think on JBG's side, and he actually made a police report against Mr. Goh Chok Tong for saying that he is because Mr. Goh actually apparently they made the accusation that Mr. Goh defamed Tang Liang Hong in the sense that Mr. Goh said that he was I think a Chinese chauvinist, or some other defamatory statements were made. Okay, so I think I'm going to read it out. Okay, so I think Mr. Tang actually left Singapore before a suit was brought against him. That's why you don't really see any cases about him. You just do a search on LexisNexis. Back to Francis Xiao. Charges of tax evasion were actually brought against him, and I'm not really sure how these charges were obviously pressed by the AG's chamber, and I have no idea what is the legal basis behind this evasion of tax charges, and whether they are true or false. So I shall make no comment on it. Okay. So I think that to be fair to Mr. Lee, okay, on the balance, yes, he has actually possibly, okay, we don't know if he was the person who did it, okay, or whether it is the executive or the judiciary who made those decisions, but basically he might have played a part in jailing political opponents. I think that's a widely held belief in Singapore. Okay, I'm not saying that that's the truth, but there's a possibility that that's the truth. And he or the executive might have used the Internal Security Act to deter people from being on the communist side of things or being against the PAP. So we would never know unless we were him or in his cabinet. So I shall not make any defamatory statements in that respect. You can go and find out about it. I think there's a plethora of information on the internet. I myself am not interested in politics, so I'm just, which is why I did not do a lot of research, but I myself am not interested in politics, so I'm just offering some food for thought. Okay, and JBJ, right? So what happened to JBJ was that he made some defamatory statements against the PAP or members of the PAP, and he was subsequently sued, and the amount of damages that were claimed, okay, was so high that he became a bankrupt, right? And he was actually fined for some things, and the amount of fine was actually so large that he was disqualified. Okay, either way, when I viewed the 1988 elected presidency, there was a debate on television on the elected presidency. I want to find how capable was Mr. Chiam Sitong and J.B. Jayaratnam. So I went to view the 1988 elected presidency debate, whereby it was pretty fair debate in terms of procedure, and the opponents were Dan B.G. Lee Hsien Loong and also Mr. Goh Chok Tong, who was about to take over Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. It was made known that he was going to succeed Mr. Lee after Mr. Lee stepped down in 1990. So It's on YouTube, so you can go and view the video yourself. And I'm sure you can come to conclusion about how intelligent Mr. Chiam and Mr. JBJ, how intelligent their comments were. So in my opinion, PM Lee and Goh Chok Tong made more sense. Okay, and in my opinion, Mr. Chiam and JBJ, they did not make much sense in terms of what they are saying, right? In terms of the institutional structure of the president's office. So I think you're making some comments like the elected president's office is executive, whereby it's actually not executive. Okay, I mean it might be executive to the sense that it is reactionary dash executive. Okay, but that's a different take on the issue. But they were very insistent that the EP is a very powerful office, and it's going to be a start of a dictatorship, which, as we know, as history pan out, is not. Well, the only sound argument that Mr. Chiam made was that if the PAP, right, if the PAP were to suddenly, in the course of its political career, if the PAP were to actually lose the support of the voters, okay, they might actually, with a 2/3 majority in parliament, they might actually pass a bill to provide the elected president with more powers. Okay, with some executive powers, and this president might actually be PAP friendly, or might actually be PAP friendly. So, since the length of term of the elected presidency and parliament, okay, parliament you sit for 4 years, and elected presidency is there for 6 years. So because of this discrepancy, okay, it's possible for the PAP to increase the powers of the president halfway, right? Before the next general election. So they might actually vest a lot of powers in the president, and then in the next election, okay, what's going to happen is that they might be overthrown by Workers' Party or whatever, and they will use the president to stop every possible move that the putative opposition would actually take. Okay, so yeah. So that's the only comment that Mr. Chiam made that actually made sense to me, and even then I thought that he didn't pursue the point vigorously enough. He just said it one time. Okay, and I knew that, and most of the time he appeared that he did not really know what he's talking about. He seemed confused to me. Okay. So I think at that point of time, there was no organized opposition, okay, right, and probably the opposition is not as qualified as it is today, and well, not to say that JBJ and Mr. Chiam they are not good politicians, or they are lousy, or they are not intelligent, or that they are darts, as I think PMD said that JBJ is a dart. We want to put a dart in parliament, but to be fair to them, they actually served the people. They actually got elected in their various constituencies for quite a number of times, in fact, for Mr. Chiam Si Tong. And Mr. Chiam is respected by even the PAP. Okay? So, my stand is that, yes, the PAP and Mr. Lee as a team, they, to a certain extent, they quelled the opposition. Probably to a greater extent than what you would see in a democracy. After GBJ was after criminal charges were filed on GBJ and is removed from the roles of the solicitor, okay, he actually appealed to the Privy Council, and the Privy Council overturned one of the decisions, but they were obviously unable to affect, I think, the criminal case. Okay, so and they made a comment that grievous injustice was done, very great injustice was done to this man, and they appealed to the judiciary of Singapore to correct the wrongs that were made to this man, and they reinstated him onto the roles of advocate and solicitor. So those were tough times. And subsequently, I think in 1991, 1992, appeals to the Privy Council were abolished. I mean, eventually you have to abolish appeals to the Privy Council because you ideally want to have an autochthonous legal system in Singapore, right? And obviously other colonies, they abolished appeals to the Privy Council. And I guess it was only a matter of time, but one could make the argument that, since the appeals were in 1992, one might make the argument that the purpose of the abolition of appeals one might make the argument that they might be politically motivated. But of course you can run the counter argument that Singapore was wanted to develop an autochthonous legal system. Okay, so to be fair to Mr. Lee, I think that he has done a lot of good things. He has built the country, he has substantially contributed to nation building. He might just practice law in England, right, and not come back to Singapore. I mean, if he were money hungry, if he was so money-faced, as people claim, since he's taking a $2.7 million a year salary according to what I heard in Parliament. Okay, so if he was so money-faced, when he were young, he would have left for England, right? And if he were power-hungry, he would not have stepped down in 1990 and handed over to Mr. Goh Chok Tong. So I think to be fair to him, whatever Amos said was actually very lopsided. It was not well thought out. It did not present both sides of the picture. So I think if you're interested, you should always find out both sides and listen to both sides. So that is, natural justice. You want to hear both sides of the argument. Okay, so I think on the balance, I think Mr. Lee probably did much more than Amos Yee did. Mr. Lee did much more good than bad. And I've listened to his speeches, I've listened to what he said, and I think that he's an intelligent person. It's much better than whatever opposition that we had at the time. Okay, so the next point is what happened to Amos Yee, and we'll do that in the next installment. Okay, before we move on to the next video, I just want to make a few other just quick points. Okay, so if you want to find out more about the political opponents who are exiled, I mean some of them are communists, okay, you can actually look at this YouTube video. You can search for, I think it's To Singapore with Love. Yeah, I think so. So it's quite sad that they're actually in Hat Yai and Johor Bahru, and they can't come back because if they come back, they might be arrested. Okay, so yeah, and in my opinion, if Ms. Lee was such a dictator, then I don't see any reason why the heads of states of the various countries would actually say such good things about him and praise him. And even the Australia and New Zealand parliaments, they actually a few speakers actually came out to say that he actually done quite a lot, and in the sense that he pushed Singapore from a third world to first world country. I mean, in the past we were taking aid from New Zealand and probably Australia as well, and he said that now GDP per capita is like 1.5 or 3 times more than Singapore. So I guess that would be his accomplishment, or some would say that's not his accomplishment because Mr. Goh Keng Swee was the man behind the economic miracle. And it's very hard to say what would have happened if Miss Lee were not there, right? And to be fair with him, he actually substantially contributed to Singapore, right? If he was such a horrible dictator, as Amos Yee pointed out, then so many world leaders would not actually come to Singapore. I mean, from Western democracies, from Asian democracies, to pay respect to him. I mean, it might be a diplomatic move, that he took, but in principle, if he was such a horrible dictator and like Kim Jong-il, we go and research on Kim Jong-il. When he died, yes, people wept, right? Because of the social conditioning. From young, you're told that Kim Jong-il is a great leader, and all that, okay? That's why in North Korea people are crying, even though you'd say that he wasn't such a forward-looking visionary and leader and statesman, right? But nobody will even give a damn that Kim Jong-il passed away. Okay, go and research about the death of Kim Jong-il, and I think nobody really said a thing. They were more worried about the political instability that his death might actually cause. Okay, and just trying to talk some sense into Amos if you're looking at this video. The fact that I think 1.2 million Singaporeans, I heard, actually lined the roads as Mr. Lee's cortege was driven from Parliament House to UCC in NUS. UCC is very large, it's around 6,000 seating capacity. Just imagine it was filled to the brim, and some people even had to sit on the steps. Okay, so that 1.2 million people actually went there. That Mr. Chiang himself actually paid his last respect, and even though he was not in very good health. So I don't think that so many people are actually brainwashed, and whilst Mr. Lee was lying in state, I think 300,000, in excess of 300,000 people actually paid respects to him. So if he were that bad of a person, I don't think that so many people would actually have done that. And Amos Yee's video actually, as you all know, Amos Yee's video actually was there for a pretty long time. I think more than 24 hours, almost 48 hours before he privatized it. I think on his own volition, not the police. Okay, I'll explain on that later. Okay, but let's make the point that if Mr. Lee was such a horrible person, then I believe that, wouldn't you say that quite a number of other people would have made similar videos? But they were none, right? Right? And why would the opposition like SDP and Workers' Party, why would they actually compliment him? I mean, SDP didn't, but Workers' Party actually complimented him that he actually played a part in the nation building process and a significant part in it. So just to talk some sense into Mr. Amos Yee, I don't know who is influencing your views and all that, but I think that we must be fair to this person, and even if you do not agree with me, even if you do not agree with the majority of Singaporeans, I think that when a person has died, I mean come on, it's like, okay, even if Mahathir dies, I think that it would not be fair to cast such negative vitriol on a dead person. I mean, show some sympathy and if not empathy for him and his family. Okay. On the other side, I think that Singaporeans were a bit too emotional. I mean, come on, he's a 17-year-old teenager. He might have been influenced by some people who might be Roy Neng, because he actually quoted statistics from Roy Neng's website. So, I mean, give him a chance. You know, he might only have saw one side of the picture. So when I was his age, I only saw the opposition side of the picture. So I didn't see the PAP side. So now I always make it a point to listen to both sides and come to a conclusion. Okay, so everything there is usually a balancing exercise. Okay, so balance it on the Libra scales and find out on which side it actually weighs down. Okay. So anything else I want to say? I think that to be fair to him, let's not make such comments against him in future. And I was horrified when I saw the comments on his video. I mean, I wish I could have screenshotted it, but that's not such a good idea because you will continue the hate against him, right? I was actually horrified when I saw the comments made against him. They were totally cruel and insensitive and unwise and, you know, totally senseless without logic, just driven based on emotion. I think take a step back, you know, as I said in my other video, he might actually have some psychological condition like Asperger's or high functioning autism. To make that diagnosis, you would have to refer to a DSM-5, and even if you referred to, you're not a psychologist. So I think that he probably has some issues. I mean, from his other videos, you can tell that he's actually not really coping very well in school. He doesn't like school, so he dropped out of school. I would believe that the totality of factors lead me to a conclusion that he probably has Asperger's, because social functioning is no good. He has repetitive motions towards the camera, if you noticed, and he has probably above borderline intelligence, which is a sign of Asperger's. They say put it as Asperger's. Because when you have no empathy, you make comments that normal people won't make. Okay, you have no remorse. Okay, so that's probably a sign of Asperger's. And he's, I think, fair to say that he's quite intelligent for a 17-year-old. Just that I've watched his videos. Okay, I've come to the conclusion that he has quite distorted views, and I think that he's someone who can be shaped, okay, to a better person. I think that for his interests, maybe some opposition leader who is viewing this video can actually try to contact him and recruit him to opposition, because I think he's a very vocal person. He's not afraid of the consequences, which a lot of us actually are. And I think that he can be shaped to a better person, and let's give him a chance because he's only 17. But he's not underage, because underage is 16, so I mean, but he's still a pretty young person, so let's just give him a chance.